Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chapter 3. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 3, which is customers. And you'll see as we go through Chapter 3 that it's very similar, the process is very similar to what we did in Chapter 2 when we talked about vendors. Did you have a question?
Hi, yeah, so we were emailing yesterday about it, and like I said, I turned each one in to Cirrus, and it kept saying it was 0 when I went, like, I was going according to the book and everything. I was just confused on how I was getting that.
Okay, and you were turning in your Lynn's Music Studio, not Christina Reyna?
I'm pretty sure. I'll double check, but what was it supposed to be? Which one?
Lynn's Music Studio, the case problem.
Okay, I'll double check because I don't remember, but yeah,
Okay,
that might be it, but I wasn't sure.
because if Christina, it's not programmed to check Christina Reyna. It's only checking Lynn's Music Studio, and Lynn's Music Studio is the one that you will get graded on, the pass-fail grade, where
Okay,
Christina Reyna is your working one.
I probably didn't then if it's not that 0, but I'll double check it.
Okay, and then I'll look at yours, of course, when I grade it, and we can work from there.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Did anybody else have that issue? That's a good question that Nikki's talking about. That when you put in your Lynn's Music Studio to be checked in Cirrus, that it came back with 0s.
This is Ashley. Mine did at first, but I think because I could try to do all 4 of them at the same time instead of individually. And so when I figured out you have to do them individually for it to check it correctly,
right,
then I didn't have issues.
Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. And did somebody else have their hand up? Joel, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, like, I'm trying to figure out where I messed up, but on the most recent one, the lens on chapter 3, I was only off by $55 on the journal report, and I seriously cannot figure out like where I left off. Like, I'm looking through each date and stuff.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you go ahead and turn it in, and I'll take a look at it,
Okay.
and maybe I'll see it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
I'll do that right
Elliot?
now.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I had issues on the journal entry for Lynn's as well when it checked it, and I'm not
In
sure where.
chapter 3 or chapter 2?
The chapter 2. We did the chapter 2 part, right?
Right, but Joel was happened to be talking about chapter 3, so I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and so when I look at when I look at yours today, you know, the one you did submit it, right?
I just did. I thought I just needed to submit it on Cyrus, so I did submit it to the Blackboard as well.
Okay, yes, you do need to submit it to Blackboard.
Okay.
You'd submit it to Cyrus to check it, and that's like your first check, and you know, if there is any errors, hopefully you'll be able to find them and correct them, and then once they're all corrected, then you submit it to Blackboard.
Okay, I'm on the same page now.
Okay, good. That's why we're doing these, you know, and because the first few weeks, it does take a little while to get used to QuickBooks and what you submit and Blackboard and how to do things in QuickBooks. And I guarantee you, as we go through this more and more each week, you'll find that it becomes very routine and very easy. Nikki, did you have another question?
Yeah, sorry. I guess I'm just still trying to understand all this. I just opened my QuickBooks, and when I open it, it says you need to log in as QuickBooks Desktop Administration, blah, blah, blah. It says the example 2, Nikki Beach, Christina Reyna, Interior Designs, and it asks for the password. Is that right?
It's always going to ask for your password.
But it's
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was the next thing I was going to say. The password's always student 2.
Mm-hmm.
And Yes, it'll open up where you left off.
Okay, it'll be where I left off. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't the Lens Music Studio, I guess I didn't do. So I'm just still trying to understand the
And that's fine. That's fine. And that's what these sessions are for. And
Mhm.
you're bringing up, I'm glad you're giving me, Nikki, you're giving me the prompts to talk about the next thing I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
As we go forward, now I'm going detailed step by step through each segment of the chapter. And I know all of you can do this very easily yourselves, but just so you're aware of all of this in QuickBooks and getting used to QuickBooks and Blackboard and what goes where and where, how do you do this and where. So as we go on through the weeks, it'll be less and less of lectures from me, and these sessions will be more and more working sessions. So starting next week, please have QuickBooks open, and then the lecture time will be shorter, and the time for you to work on QuickBooks on Christina Reyna, because you'll be using her every week, and you'll be using Lynn's Music Studio every week. So you'll be working through the concepts, and we'll have working sessions. So if you run into questions as you're actually doing it, we can talk through them. Okay?
Can we is there any chance we could go through that Lens Music Studio one today at all, just so I can like understand how to get a start to it?
Okay, we could take a look at it at the end of class.
Okay, thank you.
It goes each week. Lynn's case will go over the same concepts that you study in the chapter. So in chapter 2, it'll be Lynn's Music Studio setting up her vendors. But we'll take more of a look at it at the end of class. Yes, Joel.
I don't know if it's the same problem on like that I'm having with the journal, and it'll fix my customer detail report, but I'm getting everything right except two things on my customer detail report too. But the balance is the exact same as it's supposed to be.
Okay. Okay.
So do you want me to just wait until you see it?
Yeah, I'll have to look at it, but sometimes I'll have to look at it.
Okay. Okay.
And you brought up a really good point. A lot of times, and it makes logical sense, since we all know accounting is a two, debits and credits, everything has to balance. That if you have a problem on one report, you're going to see it on another report. It just makes logical sense. So when you fix your problem, again, from the transaction base, either from your vendor invoice or your customer sales or whatever you're working on, it'll correct the problem all the way through the reports. And just a reminder, don't fix the reports. Don't correct your problems by fixing reports. It'll just mess you up going forward. And I'll see it when you submit your report, so that's not good either. But you have to make all of your corrections at the transaction level. And by that, I mean the invoice, like I said, the sales, whatever we're working on in that chapter.
So for one of the problems,
Yeah.
okay, so for one of the reports in chapter 2, there you had to go back and edit one of the bills. I think it was the utility one from 350 to 450. And so when it came to the unpaid bills detail report, it matched. I wasn't sure if what I turned in was supposed to match what's in the book, because that is $350. But then on the other reports, it was $450. So I think what I submitted was the $450, and I'm assuming it's correct because Cirrus accepted that. So, but I didn't know if anyone else may have been confused by that also.
Right. As you go through it and make all of these corrections, whether you edit or delete a vendor or you do whatever it's telling you to do, the final report is the one that's going to be corrected. And remember, Cirrus is only Lynn's music studio, not Christina Reyna.
Yes.
I
So
don't know
I
if that was confusing.
yeah, I forget if it was Christina Reyna or Lynn's music studio. I can't remember now.
Okay, okay. And again, I'll take a look at these. It's the first week, so, you know, it is confusing the first week of doing these reports. So it is confusing. By the time we get to May, you'll be best friends with Christina Reyna and Lynn's music studio. You will know everything about both of these businesses, I promise you. Yes, Nathan.
Hey, I was just gonna let her know there's two the unpaid bills report that she's talking about. Like there's a picture of the first one, but if she goes back towards the end of the chapter, the corrected one's on there. And
Okay,
that's the one
great.
she needs to go off of.
Great, thank you. Okay, yes, Caitlin.
So does that mean, so I kind of did the Christina Reyna instead of doing the Lynn's music studio? And that's what I submitted, and it was all wrong, because of course I did the Christina Reyna. Will we get a chance to like fix that and make that up?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so just so you know, for every week, and it'll show you in Blackboard, and I'll show you in Chapter 3 in a second, that you'll submit the required reports for both Christina Reyna and Lynn's music studio.
Okay.
So the Christina Reyna, you work through the chapter and you don't submit them to Cirrus for correcting because they're in the chapter. As Nathan said, you know, as you go through towards the end of the chapters, you'll see the reports that are correct.
Okay.
On Lynn's music studio is the ones you submit to Cirrus, but in Blackboard you submit all of them.
Okay.
Makes sense? Theoretically, since you submitted to Cirrus to correct Lynn's music studio,
Yes.
you'll make all those corrections and then submit everything to Blackboard. So theoretically, when I see it in Blackboard, it should all be perfect.
Okay.
And as we just talked about, you know, that sometimes doesn't happen. I think it was Joel maybe that said, you know, I've looked and looked and I can't find the error.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take a look at that, go back and say, well, maybe you should look here or there, and that's where the error is. And then you have that upcoming week just to correct it, plus do the work for the current week. Okay, so when we go into Chapter 3, and you all are familiar with the format of each chapter because they're all going to be the same. We're going to go over the goals, which is what we'll do in each class. And you see the goals here. We're working on customers. So we're going to have a customer center just like the vendor center of last week. Now we're going to create invoices rather than bills. We're going to receive payments rather than pay. And then we also have invoices on account, or we have cash. We buy things with cash. We're going to record deposits, and then of course there's reports. So pretty much the same format as we did last week. As far as Blackboard, couple of things in Chapter 3. You know, you have your activities and assignments, same case problems, so forth. But in Chapter 3, we have one new thing. Well, we actually have two new things. The first thing is the self-reflection journal, and you'll only complete this in Chapter 3. And it's just a moment for you to step back. Now you've done 2 weeks of work or 2 chapters of work in QuickBooks. What did you think about it? What did you struggle with? What was easy for you? What did you learn? You know, a little bit of reflection on what went on this week, but kind of looking back at the beginning of the class. At the end of the class, there'll be another journal in the last week of class. So this is the only week that you really, have to worry about this now. The other thing new in Chapter 3, of course, we have the same watch and learn lesson that we've had last week. is work ethics. And I'm guessing that most of you have done something with work ethics in some class previously. And if you look down here, these are the work ethics that we're going to be covering. You'll have a work ethic discussion question or questions every week from chapter 3 through chapter 8. So, and they're very little, you know, something to think about, your thoughts. There's no right or wrong, really, about workplace, about attendance, appearance, attitude, character, communication, just this, I guess we would call them soft skills you need in a workplace. All of you will leave this class with a functional working knowledge of QuickBooks that you can use for a job. But some of the things that are not taught in school generally are these type of skills. You know, appearance, you know, what is the proper way to dress for an office? And I know that might sound kind of silly. Well, I always dress nice. But sometimes that might be a challenge for some people, you know, to really know, you know, what's, you know, good etiquette in working in teams and so forth. So that's what the work ethics are all about. To give you a little example, I spent a couple years working overseas, and women in those countries, you know, they were just joining the workforce and really becoming a force, young women force in the workplace. And this is not many years ago. This is just a few years ago. And things that they didn't know were something like shaking hands. It had been socially inappropriate for women to shake hands. So that was a skill that they needed to know to be able to join the workforce. Those kinds of skills that you think, well, I know this, but sometimes we have to kind of think about them even more. So in any event, so you'll have a work ethics discussion question every week. And what you'll do is answer the question, respond to some of your classmates. And we put these concepts. So for week 3, there's a cute little 3-minute video on YouTube about teamwork, good teamwork and bad team. And you'll go here, see work ethics discussion, and here are your questions. Many people think of accountants as solitary people who work at their desk and interact with others, and don't interact with others, excuse me, or work as part of a team. Do you agree? And explain, you know, and answer each of these questions. You know, is it okay to embellish your resume to get a job? Share what you think. And in order to, you click on there, and I think a lot of you have done discussion questions in the past. You know how to create a thread and so forth. That's when I'm over here looking at Blackboard or in QuickBooks, I can't see if your hand is raised or not raised, so just ask out loud.
I have a question. The discussion, you said to respond, do we have a certain number that we have to respond to our classmates, or?
No. 2 is always the suggested amount. I'm pretty liberal on that. So as long as you answer it and respond to at least one, you can respond to as many as you would like, of course, but at least one. Okay, so work ethics every week. Here's your, you know, your different reports that you'll submit in Blackboard. You have 4 from Christina Reyna and 4 from Lynn's Music Studio, and a little bit of information. Make sure that the columns are wide enough in Excel so that you see the numbers. It's not a lot of, you know, stars or X's or whatever Excel does. Label the tabs in your workbook. And I know this sounds like a silly thing, but this has happened. Make sure you submit the correct file. It's real easy to submit the wrong file, to submit, last week's file. So make sure that you submit the correct file. Again, here are the places to check your reports, your Lynn's Music Studio reports. You have the exam and a little note about if you find errors. So any questions on Blackboard on the assignments for week 3 or chapter 3?
No.
No? Okay. So let's go into QuickBooks. Okay, and I opened up chapter 3 to the customer information, the customer center. And as you know, as you did in chapter 2, you'll do the same process in chapter 3 of opening up the file. That's chapter 3, Christina Reyna Interior Designs. You'll change the name. You don't need to back up and restore. And then you'll change the name to put your name in here. So I think everybody's familiar with that, so we can start right in the customer center. And remember, last week we did everything in vendors up here. This week we're going to do everything in customers. And I went in here to the customer center. And what the customer center is going to show you is a list of your customers, and it defaults to the first one in the list and shows you the information about that customer. Here's the transactions, customers and jobs. This tab over here on the right, on the left rather, will give you the name of all your active customers and what they owe you. And you can see now when you open yours up, these are going to be 0. I've done some work, I've entered some information, so we'll have things to work with later on in the class. So that's why Cook Caterers and Franco Films have amounts in there. I've entered invoices for them already. And here the transactions tab will list all the transactions for a particular vendor. So if we went on here, for example, down here, you can see I'm back in customers and jobs, the different invoices for Cook Caterer. And these are all your active customers. You can add new customers here if you needed to add a new customer. Up here. And you have attach, edit, so forth. Very similar to the vendor information center. And you can right click here, and you also have a menu. I right clicked on the customer name on the left side, and you're also going to have a menu of activities you can do with this customer. You can also double click, and you can edit information for the customer. If we go over to page 78, we're talking about if you need to add a new customer. So if we want to add a new customer, we can add a new customer here. In the book, it's talking about Omari, Maria Omari, which I already added. And you see it's pretty self-explanatory. You add all of her information that's given to you. Then you would go into the payment tab and issue an account number, a credit limit, her payment terms. In here, you have 2 choices, net 30 days or net 10 days, which are pretty common, or if you needed to add a new payment term. And does everybody know when it says net 30 days what that means?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, very good. And, you know, different information. If they want to have a credit card on file, they would give you that, and you can put that in. And if you have different methods of payment that you allow them, you can put all of that in as well. And any additional information. In this case, because it's a design firm, it's defaulted to residential or commercial. Maybe you want to have a representative. Maybe that this particular customer always Joe Blow always handles this particular customer, so you put that in there. Okay, any questions about adding a new customer?
No.
Okay, so the next step to go ahead and delete a customer. And in the case of our Christina Reyna example, she wants to delete Value Line Development Company because they went out of business. Okay, so you call them up, and if you remember about deleting a vendor, it's the same principle. You'll go into this top bar up here, work there, you would go into edit up here, and delete customer. And do you want to delete this customer job? Okay. And they're deleted. Deleting is always a little unusual because you go to the top menu bar instead of staying within the customer center information. The next thing that Christina Rayner wants to do with her customers. So one way of doing it, she wants to edit Plaza Pizza, and she wants to change Tony's name to Mikey. And you see here, I double-clicked from the left side on Plaza Pizza Palace, and it opened up the edit screen. And I just go in here and change Tony to Mikey. Hit OK. And it's done. Now, I did it by double-clicking on the left here. You could also edit here and do the same thing. Any questions about editing a customer? Okay, so any questions about the customer center? Adding new customers, deleting customers, editing customers. It's all pretty straightforward. Just like we talked about in the last couple weeks, that QuickBooks is really made for people that are not accountants. It's made really on a basis of logic. That if you double click on something or you click on this little pencil thing, pretty much that's edit. That's pretty much a standard icon for edit, that you can change things. Deleting is in an unusual place, and maybe that's because you really want to not delete if by accident. So let's go on to creating an invoice for a customer. And in this case, we're creating invoices for customers that have accounts with us. And most of us, as individual consumers, we really do everything on a cash basis, not necessarily dollars and cents cash, either through credit card or debit cards or PayPal or whatever. We're using cash as opposed to an account. Many years ago, when I was in corporate accounting, I worked for a call center firm. And at the end of the month, during the month, they answered calls for companies, famous, well-known companies. So if you call the 800 number for like Dell, let's say, they would answer the phone. And so then at the end of the month, they would, know the number of hours they were on the phone with the customers, or the number of calls, depending on the way the pricing was structured, and they would send a bill at the end of the month. You may see contractors doing this at Home Depot. They buy things on account. So the first thing we're going to look at is invoicing a customer, all of these customers that are in our customer database, if you will, in our customer center, invoicing these customers for Christina Reyna's services. What do you think when we're developing an invoice and entering an invoice in QuickBooks, what accounts are we affecting?
Can you
Okay,
repeat the
so
question?
what accounts, when we enter an invoice for a customer, what accounts are we, in the back of QuickBooks, what accounts are being affected?
Accounts receivable and revenue.
Yep, thank you, thank you. Yes, accounts receivable and revenue. Just like last week it was accounts payable and expenses, this is accounts receivable, which is an asset, we all know, and revenue, which is income. Okay, so we want to create an invoice. We go into our customer center and click on create invoice. Okay, so we look at here the create invoice screen, and again, it has different functions that you can do with this screen. And we want to create an invoice now. We go to page 84, and it talks about all the different parts of the invoice screen. One thing that we want to create an invoice. In an example, we're going to create an invoice for Beverly Jones. So we look here on our customer job and we find Beverly Jones. The template here is, the default is Intuit Service Invoice. You do have other choices, and those will be talked about more when you get into chapter 12, I believe. And one thing to know, we're on the main screen of the invoice. There's also formatting, sending, shipping, and reports. So when we look here, automatically, when I put customer job Beverly Jones, it came up with her address. It came up with today's date, which we know we're not using. And that could be a problem a lot of times in reports if you have an issue. The QuickBooks tells you to use dates in 2022 or any date different than today's date. And if you don't change the dates, your reports will be wrong. So make sure that your dates are correct. So in the case of Beverly Jones, this date field is 2/1/2022. So I found that this is kind of the easiest way to do this. An invoice field. Mine has a number in it because I've entered invoices already. Yours will be blank when you're entering the first invoice. And it defaults to the terms in her customer profile. If for whatever reason you decide, that this particular invoice has different terms, you would put this in here. Now, click on item. And in this case, for Christina Reyna, there's two different types, decorating service and design service. If you need a new type of, when it's item, it's the type of revenue item that is being sold to the customer. If you need to add a new one, you would add it here. But in this case, for Beverly Jones, she's going to have decorating services, and it automatically populates the rate, which is $50 an hour, and the description category. And in this case, the quantity of hours that she used were 12. And you see over here, it automatically did the math that the balance due is $600. And then you want to make sure that these boxes are unchecked. The print later and email later boxes are unchecked. And you want to make sure that this is not turned on. Your customer can't pay the invoice online because her agreement is that she doesn't pay online. Okay, and so we have everything that we need in here. Save and new. makes a nice little beep and takes you, as you see, it went to the next invoice number. The date remained the same, so now you can enter your next invoice.
I have one.
Yes,
So whenever it says like enter the invoice, but it says after payment immediately, that just means that you have to like pay like what was the other option?
this one we in this particular invoicing process, these are on account and they're going to be paid in 30 days. So you're setting them up in accounts receivable. We'll get to like cash sales where they pay right now. It's a different process.
Oh, because on the lens it says like it says provided 3 hours of piano lessons to the family, invoice number 2002, receive payment immediately, check number 478. Would that mean that we just have to write the check the same date and it would go through as payment immediately?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, it's a different process, and we'll get to that in just a little bit, because that would be considered a cash sale. When you go in and, you know, whether it be a check or whatever, that if you're paying for the services immediately when you receive them, and it's not going through accounts receivable. This particular process is setting up an accounts receivable when payment occurs, whether it be, you know, a day from now or a month from now, whatever, then accounts receivable will be zeroed out and so on.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on creating invoices? And then if we go back to the customer center real quickly, we can see that Jones is here and she has a $600 balance. So it automatically sets that up on her account to be paid and debits account receivable for $600 and credits income for $600. So now if we want to know about how to receive payment on all of these. And again, going into customers and into receive payment. It's all very straightforward. It's using the wording that would make a lot of sense. You know, we want to know how to receive payment, so we go into receive payment. Now, this is an interesting concept in QuickBooks. When QuickBooks, if I said, what are the accounts when you receive payment? I'm sure all of you would say debit, cash, and credit accounts receivable, receiving payments on accounts. QuickBooks adds another step in this process. Instead of debiting cash, they debit another asset account called undeposited funds. And what that does, that's sort of a holding account. And when you make a deposit at the end of the week or whenever you make your deposits, you'll make an entry taking the money out of undeposited funds and debiting cash. So we'll see that later on in the class. And this is just another little control to make sure the funds, you know, a little internal control on cash. Now, this payment window is only for customers who have been sent invoices. So we have their accounts that they owe money. On page 88, we'll show you all of the different parts of this particular customer payment window. If you see different things, you add in who the payment is received from, the payment amount, so forth. The method of payment here, if they're paying this check mark here, if they're paying different invoices out of a bunch that's owed, you can click on the ones where payments should be applied to. If you don't click on anything, the payment is going to be applied to the oldest invoice first. An example of receiving a payment. So we have this here. We see Beverly Jones, which is probably our best customer since she's paying right now. So we received a check from her. So we open up her file. We see she owes $600, and we received from her a $600 check. And we received it on February 13th. And we received check number 6544. You see the little check mark is here because there's only one invoice. So we know to apply that $600 payment. We know it was a check. Had she paid in cash, we would click this. We clicked on check. She paid by check, and so forth. And we're not going to post any more payments right now, so we can click. If you click on Save and New, it'll go to the next screen so you can post another payment. Since we don't have other payments to post, we click Save and Close. And it takes us back to whatever previous screen we were in, which was the Customer Center. Any questions? Any questions on posting a payment? Now, sometimes people will pay and they can pay a partial payment. So we're going to go and we're going to record a partial payment. And again, receive payment window. In this example, Franco Films, now they have a $1,440 invoice and they only made a $500 payment. So we will put in $500 and the check number, and it paid on February 20th. And check number 1255. And here it shows you the amount due was $1,440. It shows a payment of $500 applied to that. They have a balance due. And the difference between the previous screen and what you see now is down here. It knows it's an underpayment. It knows they still owe $940. And it's asking you, do you want to leave this as an underpayment? Maybe you made some sort of arrangement with them. They can't afford to pay you the whole $1,400 right now, but they're going to pay you $500 now and the rest next week or whatever. So we'll leave it as an underpayment. Maybe Franco Films went out of business and you're able to receive $500. So you're going to write off the extra amount. Take it as a loss. So really, QuickBooks, once you enter the information, it knows what to do with it. The process of entering the payment information is the same, whether it be a partial payment or a full payment. So here we're going to save and new because we have another one to enter. And the last one we're going to enter is from Cook's Catering. Now they have two invoices, one for $1,360 and one for $1,200. They're paying now. Cook's Catering is giving you a check for $2,560. Again, check the dates. This is on the 27th of February. And they've also given you a check number 655. Here, they know, QuickBooks knows this $2,560 is applied to the two invoices and the total amount of the invoice. So you don't have to really work at that at all. Now, maybe if they had sent you a check for $1,200, you would know, and it's going to this invoice here. You would uncheck this one, apply the $1,200 totally to that, and save and close. So that closes it. So recording payments, and again, the one thing to remember, this function of recording payments is only for payments on accounts receivable. If someone has a cash transaction, you won't use this receipt payment form. Now, so we've seen entering invoices on accounts, receiving payments on accounts. So now we're going to talk about cash payment. So now a customer comes in, and just like the example from Lynn's Music Studio, they've received a service today, and they hand you a check right now. So that's what we're looking at. Doesn't go through accounts receivable at all. So, but you have to record it, of course. So again, going into customers, and we're going into the enter sales receipts window. Okay, and the same thing. You will go in sales receipts, sold to, let's just say, Alamar Company. And the sales receipts, this is on page 93. And this is going to go directly to cash and revenue, no accounts receivable. So the example that we're going to use is Hamilton Hotels. We're going to enter, the first thing we're going to do is enter the date, which in this case is 2/24. Sales number, and these are in your book. This is all Christina Reyna. Sale number 1007. They paid by check, and you see the check lights up. In the check number field, we'll put in their check number 25546. And again, click down on the item field, and they purchased design services, and they purchased 8 hours of design services. So they would have given you a check for $480. Any questions?
So this would be an example where it would say like paid in full the same day, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it was the example you were using in Lynn's Music Studio, where somebody came in, received the service, and handed them a check.
Okay, thank you. And if it was cash, it would just be cash, right?
Right, if it was dollars and cents cash or a credit card or an e-check, whatever the method of payment is. And this is all on page 94, so that would be a cash sale. So like I said a little while ago, instead of debiting cash with this sale or any time money is received, QuickBooks uses an undeposited funds account, another asset account. And so we want to know the entry, and this is the last entry we'll go through today is when you want to make a deposit, you've received these checks either via cash sale or through a payment on account, you want to deposit these funds. I'm going to close this by hitting Save and New, and I hit New, and so it took me to a blank sales receipt. I could also hit Save and Close, and it would take me back. It would clear me out of this entirely. So in the Make Deposits, we want to go into banking. So again, you think deposits, even though we're dealing with customer checks, we're now making deposits. We want to go into banking, make deposits. And we have received all of these checks. So here we are looking at all of these checks. We can sort it here by whatever we want to sort it by, date, payment method, excuse me. And again, payment method here could be, like you just asked, it could be cash, it could be check, either one. So we select the payments we want to deposit, and we want to select all. We're going to make all of these deposits. We hit OK and go to this screen here, and here's our deposit total. We save and close. So now at the end of the month or the end of your accounting period or however you would do it, after making a deposit, you want to always check the undeposited funds account to make sure there's nothing out there that, if you're looking at that screen that says, here are all your deposits to make, and you have 10 checks, but in your hand, you're only holding 9 checks, you need to figure out what happened. So it is a little bit of a good control there to know that you're depositing all the checks that you received during this accounting period. So any questions? Any questions on customer? You know, there's all, and then of course there's reporting. And accounts receivable, especially, is very important as far as reporting is concerned, reports are concerned, because you want to look at the aging of your accounts receivable to make sure you're collecting the money quickly. A customer can have a lot of sales, millions of dollars in sales, but if they don't collect their accounts receivable, they'll go out of business. So reporting is very, very important. Again, reports down here, customer and receivable reports, accountant and taxes reports if you want, journals, trial balances, and so forth. So you should be familiar with running reports, having done it for Chapter 2. Always at the end of each chapter, and I hope you, I live in a building, a condo, so somebody's drilling. So if you hear background noise, I'm really sorry. If you go to page 102, which is really important, I think, at the end of each chapter, there's a procedure review, and it summarizes everything we talked about for the last hour or so, very succinctly in detailed steps. If you forgot how to enter a customer, it tells you, or how to delete a customer, or whatever the transaction might be. It's a great 2-page review. And then, of course, Lynn's Music Studio, which is case 3.1, starts on page 104. So, any questions about anything we covered? And let me stop sharing this and get back to you. Any questions about anything we covered today? Hope everybody's still awake out there. Thank you, Alexa. I know you're there. That you're awake, and Joel. So anyway, so the same thing. Go through Blackboard. You'll submit the reports. I'll take a look at all of your Chapter 2 reports at some point today. I have another meeting at 12, so sometime today I'll be able to do that. And like I said, next week we'll go into Chapter 4, which is period end adjusting entries, period end closing kind of entries. And have your QuickBooks open, because we'll do a little lecturing, we'll go over the processes, and then hopefully we'll have some time at the end. If you want to do some work, or if you have questions, we can go through those as well. So I'll see you all next week. Okay, thanks, Joel. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks, Matt. Hi, Nikki.
I just wanted to know if you could help me go through Chapter 2 real quick.
Okay.
After everyone leaves or whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I just have a couple questions because I tried going over it during class, and I see what I did wrong in the first place, but I just have some questions within the lesson.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know what I thought I did, but it wasn't the case problem. But I'm looking at it now, and I'm almost through it. I'm halfway through the case, the first one, but I got.
Let me ask you a question while
Yes,
you're saying that. Did you do the case problem as we were talking about things today?
No, I was working on this one today.
Okay, no, the reason I'm asking, because I want to make sure I'm still learning Collaborate, and I want to make sure that you could hear me and work in QuickBooks at the same time.
Yeah, so I use my MacBook to join on the call, and then I use my desktop to do QuickBooks and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have two separate things. But yeah, I got stuck on number 7. I went back, and it says April 2nd, receive bill for rent for the month of April from View Hill Reality, $600, pay immediately. Check number 1, do not print check. And I was wondering, because I just felt like I don't know, I was trying to do it and I felt like I was doing it wrong, so I stopped. But I didn't know if I would do enter bill or pay bill, make a payment.
Okay, now you're talking about the rent one?
Number
Or which
7,
one?
yeah, number 7. I started doing it and I wasn't sure if that's pay bill or pay partial bill or enter bill.
This is a tricky one.
Yeah.
So like the first one, receive bill for rent and paid immediately.
Uh-huh.
When it tells you pay immediately, that's when you go into the cash payment. You don't run it through accounts payable. And that hangs up everybody because it's confusing. And I just know that having taught this forever. So when you see pay immediately, you go into the cash payment screen. When you see like
what's the cash payment screen?
So in vendors, my mind just went, this is senior moment. My mind just went blank.
You're fine.
Banking. This is the one, this always trips me up also, as you see.
Okay, yeah. So write checks. Okay.
Yeah, when it says pay immediately, you're paying, and this tripped me up last week also.
So whenever it's pay immediately, it's...
You go through this write checks window. That's in banking.
Okay, every time it says pay immediately, it's always write checks?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That's like you're paying by cash, not cash, but you're paying right then. You're not running it through accounts payable.
Okay. Okay, cool. So it would be receive bill for rent in the month of April, bank account, it would say cash. Okay. Pay to the order of View Hill Reality. And then...
Well, this is 7 ARC management for $800. The rent, is that the one you're looking at?
600. Number 7 on page 67.
Okay. Oh, you're not looking at Lynn's Music Studio, and I'm looking at the wrong thing.
That is
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I did that earlier when I first talked to you at the beginning of class. I was on the next page, and then I'm like, why can't I find any of these vendors? And I was like, oh, that's the second problem. That's the wrong one.
Yeah. So this View Hill Realty, and I should know this because every student, every semester gets hung on this one.
Yeah.
That they do it through payables, and it's not. So anywhere it says immediately, you do it through this write checks window in banking. And anyone that says on account, you pay through the payments in vendors.
So when it's on account, what was that, did you say?
You go into vendors
and
pay bills.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because you will have set it up at some point previously. It would have been set up in accounts payable at some point previously.
Okay, and then let me see if I can enter this. $600, paid immediately, check number. Okay, it says do not print, so I would uncheck print later.
Correct.
Okay, I did it. Sorry,
no, that's fine.
And then receive bill, and then is that it? No, I need to change the date.
Yeah, make sure your dates are correct.
So it's April 2nd. Okay, April 2nd, 2022. Okay, is that it?
And you put the date and pay to the order of, and which you clicked on View Hill Realty.
Yes, and 600.
Check number 1 and the amount.
Yeah,
and the date.
Is it supposed to be an account at the bottom? It just says amount all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, you should click on there where it says account, and there's a drop-down menu, and there's all the accounts will come up. Obviously, this is rent, so you would find the rent expense account.
Okay.
6,400, and put that in there.
Okay, is that it then?
Okay, and it should come out, and it should be it.
Save and new. Okay. Cool. And then one more question. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Now you did save and new, so the only thing you're going to be doing on that screen is anything that says immediately.
Yeah.
which
And
would be
then
the last one, the April 9th one.
at the beginning of the case problem, it gives like a whole like explanation, but it says she began by depositing $10,000, outstanding no balance of $2,000. Do I enter that and where?
You should see that when you open the Lynn's Music Studio file, because you've opened it, I'm assuming. You've opened the file in QuickBooks.
Yeah, that's what I'm on.
Right. So you've assumed, so you should be able to look in those accounts and make sure that those amounts are already posted in there.
How would I find that?
We haven't done that yet.
Oh, we haven't?
No.
Okay, but I don't need to do anything with those numbers then?
No,
Okay,
just follow each of the steps, step by step.
Okay, because yeah, it mentioned that. I was confused. I was like, I don't know if this is trying to throw me off or if it's something important I need to know. And then yeah, okay, cool. And then so pay immediately, write checks on account. Okay.
You could look in when you're doing your payment, your write checks, what you just did.
Yeah.
See how it's saying bank account at the top where it says cash operating account? You should see that 10,000 before you paid that bill of 600. If you haven't done anything else, I don't know what else. You wouldn't have done anything else.
Oh no, I already did that, and then I did save a new. It says ending balance 9,400.
Right, because you paid 600 for rent, so that 10,000 that she started with.
Yeah.
In her cash account, so you could see that it's there.
Okay, cool. And then I think that's it. I hope that's it.
Okay, yeah, just go step by step. And if you get hung up on anything, you can kind of thumb through the recording.
Yeah.